the warm-up. I'm Stu Wakeford. On Monday, we found our route back to normality, and Wednesday, we found our scoring boots once again. What a win that was against Sheffield Wednesday. Not a bad few days. And these two, with that news on Monday, are absolutely buzzing because now they've got a date to find out and they can hug me for the first time, which I know they've been waiting for. It is, of course, the ambassador, Marcus GAYLE, and the Brian to our Tariqe and Sergi, Brentford women's gaffer, Karleigh Osborne. How are you, lads?
I'm all right. I can't wait for that.
Thank you, mate.
And hopefully you'll have a wash before then as well.
Yeah, I'm not today.
Say that.
Not today, I'll be honest. Marcus, I like your top.
Not bad, is it?
Where's that from?
It's from the retail store.
Oh, the 1889 range, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Where's my one of them? Stu?
You've still not given me your address.
Definitely sent it, but it's okay. We'll talk about it after.
You definitely have not sent your address. Don't make us fall out again already. Pooley and Pooley. Lads, Monday, big news, wasn't it? Hey, I tell you, that and the win last night, it's weird. It's given us a big lift, hasn't it?
Yeah, it lifts people's spirits. We can see our way out of this now. So, yeah, it was good. It's good news.
And I've had a great week. I've got prize news, some prize news. On Tuesday, I took a test and I was able to get into the training ground. They provided a negative test. And I managed to take the prizes, the Farewell Griffin Park programmes to the training ground. Next step is to get them signed. With that good news, I think now's probably a good time to ask for something from the people at home. Karleigh, do the honours.
Like and subscribe, people. If you love watching us, then make sure you're notified. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Make sure you're tuned in all the time.
That's it. And if you do subscribe, you get to find out about our other content, including our little brother show, I'm going to call it, because that's the only child in me desperate for a sibling. The Sting with our very own Luke Gregory. It's our second episode of that. It's absolutely brilliant. It went out on Thursday at 5 p.m. If you've not seen it yet, check it out. In the meantime, here's a little tease.
Welcome to The Sting, our monthly show dedicated to you junior Bees fans.
When we played him, he played on my side and I just couldn't get the ball off him. Whatever you did, you pressed him, didn't matter.
So then I kind of knew that I was going to come on, and then as soon as he called my name to go and put my shirt on, that was when kind of hit me that I was actually properly coming on to make my debut.
Then I picked the team I decide.
I would have absolutely loved that if it was about when I was a kid. Top work, Lukey. Should we do our show now, lads, shall we, yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Yep, let's go.
Well, COVID's obviously been tricky for clubs across the country, but what impact has it had on the B team? I asked head coach Neil MacFarlane that very question, and also how he would coach his 18-year-old self. Plus, as always, we'll be touching briefly on Coventry last week and that Sheffield Wednesday game last night, as well as looking forward to Norwich and Stoke tomorrow. Plus, you two finally pulled your weight, didn't you? Did a bit of work. You got up to something for us with Tariqe?
Your weight. What are you trying to
We're
insinuate?
always putting our way in with you, GAYLE.
I don't know what he's trying to say, Karleigh. We had a little chat with Tariqe Fosu this week about diversity and inclusion. So that was really good.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that coming up. Should we talk about that 3-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday? As we can't ignore the Coventry result, obviously, and that was at the standards that we've set and that we expect of ourselves. Positive, how impressive was the reaction on Wednesday against Wednesday, and what did we do better, Marcus?
I think there was just a hunger and an appetite to do well after the 3 previous losses. I think the players felt bad after, especially the QPR. I felt bad. I felt bad for them, felt bad for myself, coming from that area. The defeat against Coventry, we just didn't have that reaction that we thought we might have. The pitch played a part to a degree, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. It was bobbly for Coventry as well. We just couldn't get into our sort of natural rhythm with that pitch. And it was a tough afternoon, but we reacted well Wednesday night against Sheffield Wednesday.
We did, and I think we would have any kind of win would have just been what we needed, right? It didn't matter how we did. To do it so emphatically, 3-0 was impressive. And we saw something that we've talked about a couple of times. I don't want to go big on this because I don't think this was why we won. But that savviness and the game management where we saw Sergi in the first half, where maybe it looked like Sheffield Wednesday were going to break, and he took the foul and he took the booking, and we saw Henrik do it as well later on. That's kind of the cleverness that we've needed a bit, Karleigh, isn't it? And we've mentioned it on here.
Yeah, it is. There was a lot more guile in our performance, and it was that those little things make a difference, especially when you're trying to claw a win after a couple of bad results. And on a whole, the team performance was so much better.
Well, what do we know about Brentford Football Club? And when a player is out of the team and we have to bring someone in, whether it be through a transfer, suspension, injury, that player seems to always take their chance. And we've seen it more than ever this year. People like Mads Beck, Vitali, and last night, Brian Mbomo has to play through the middle in the absence of Ivan and Marcus. And what a game he had. Goal and assist. Thank you very much. How good was it to see him on the score sheet, Marcus?
I think personally it was very good for him just to get that goal, albeit a little bit scruffy, but he was in the right place, the right time to put us 1-0 up. And who cares how that ball goes in the net? But I was impressed with his movement in coming towards the ball and having that ball played into him, because we had to play that ball into his feet because he's not 6 foot plus. He's only 5'7", 5'8". I may be doing him a disservice, but the balls into him were a lot better as well, and he made good use of that ball when it came into him.
There seems to be such a togetherness. I loved it when he scored. You saw Sergi was pointing at him, and when he comes off, everyone was so happy for him. And there seems to be that real togetherness around this squad. They seem to absolutely love each other's company and love being around each other. And it's been the same for the last couple of years. With Brian, obviously, they see it day in, day out, how hard he is working that we don't see, really. But Karleigh, how important is that? Because obviously winning makes players happy, but getting on and loving your teammates and loving coming into work and that togetherness and the spirit, how far can that take a team?
It takes a team really far, and that's probably the key ingredient to any successful team. Having a squad that is willing to kind of work for each other, wants to be around each other, but also willing to tell people when they need to be told, if changes need to be made or standards need to be lifted. And I think that's in this group. And I think, that the week before, where it wasn't as great as, we all want and things like that, I think they would have sat down with each other and really sort of pushed each other and made each other realise that, they're onto something good and they need to make sure they complete it.
Another man that's come in recently, Winston Reid, we didn't mention him there. Marcus, I know you've been a really big fan of his. You picked him out again yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, he finished or started yesterday's game in very much the same vein as last week, where he was just passing those headers instead of just booming it up and high. He was picking players out, and it enabled us, particularly Matthias Jensen, just to continue that possession and build the next wave of attack. But I thought it was very impressive, his positional sense and stuff. But, not just that, but the passing as well. The balls into Brian's feet were top class. And it kind of just set the tone. You can just see he's got that level above quality when he comes into the team.
Karleigh, I'm short. It ain't news to me, I'll admit it. I am short. But Winston's not like your towering centre-half. Do you know what I mean? He's not as tall as like Ethan. How does he win so many headers? Because he won 15 aerial duels against Sheffield Wednesday.
It's the cleverness of thought with him and obviously timing and positioning. You don't have to be the tallest, but if you've got good timing, good ability when you're jumping, but also a great understanding of positioning and reading the flight of the ball, you won't lose too many aerial duels, and he has that in abundance.
So him and Ethan being the centre-half pairing against Sheffield Wednesday meant Mads went into cover for Rico at left-back. I mean, I don't know if you can have your best long throw game, but looking at just his long throws, they were unbelievable. They've always been good, but sometimes maybe don't cause as many problems as they did last night. Every single one of them, Marcus, caused havoc for Sheffield Wednesday, didn't they? Yeah,
they just kind of left a massive hole for him to just pop that ball in. It seemed like they was going straight through the middle of where the penalty spot is, in line with it, but in line with the 6-yard line as well, which made it very difficult. So balls were bouncing in there, and what a sort of attribute to have, particularly at left back as well. So he's a lot nearer to the play than he normally is from a centre half. So it probably helped him, but I thought he had a very good game up against a very tricky opponent in Kadeem Harris, who's very quick, but you never saw that up against Mads. He got his body in between Kadeem Harris and the ball and just kept him out of the game.
We love Mads. We spoke about him a lot. And Karleigh, I think What I wanted to speak to you about is he's played the whole season at centre half, and then he's just gone to left back straight away. Like, this happened to you a lot, didn't it? You play a lot of games at centre half and then go to right back. It kind of just seems to be expected of centre half sometimes to just go and do that. But it must be a bit harder than I give it credit for.
Yeah, I think it can be just expected that you just fill into that role and fit in straight away. But it's everything's a bit different. It's a different approach. You're in a different angle of the pitch, so everything you do is off a different angle. But it just goes to show that he's clever enough as a defender in general to understand that position change. And like we said, he done really well there. And it's a good backup that we can have that, as well as him being the centre half as well. It brings an extra string to his bow.
And obviously he's playing there because of Rico's injury that he picked up against Coventry. And this is an interesting one because obviously Rico gives us so much going forward in the attacking sense. But it was interesting when we spoke to Henrik the other week, and he said, well, my role is effectively to be the balance, to create balance. So Rico can just go down that left side. I can just make sure we're stable. We don't overcommit almost. And it's almost like an asymmetrical back four at times. Well, yesterday we saw Henrik bombing up and down, didn't we? And it was Mads basically doing what Henrik would do on the right. So is this where we're so lucky that we can just do that? Because Henrik is so good going forward, like Rico is, that all we had to do was, right, well, now we know we normally would do it like on the left side. We just do it on the right side now. Mads does the Henrik role. And Henrik, there you go. There's your passport. Off you go. You're on a little journey. Enjoy your trip, mate. Bomb on. Are we lucky in that regard, Marcus, that we can just do that?
I think he just played with that handbrake being released. He was at times right wing, which he normally does that from his position of right back, but at times he was going into the centre forward position because Mathias Jensen was out on the right side of attack. And I like that he was ending up in different positions. Even one stage in the second half, he was left side of the attack, cutting a ball back for Saman Ghoddos, who just put one past the post. But I just like the trust and the freedom that the players have had to express themselves last night.
As we've spoken a lot about the players that have come in and done such an amazing job throughout the season, this is the problem we got, right? Do you know what your strongest 11 would be, each of you?
I think I would, yeah.
Roughly, I think.
Do you reckon you've got the same one?
Nah.
I think the three of us could write down our strongest 11. But isn't that the brilliance of what's happened this season, that these players that have come in, that the three of us have probably got different strongest 11s? It just shows the depth. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that's what's great. It just goes to show, like you said there, that the depth in the squad, the talent in the squad, that we'll all come up with different kind of 11s. And that will bode well, for the rest of the season.
Well, some tough calls for Thomas. Another man who has to make some big decisions is B-Team head coach Neil MacFarlane. I went to the training ground this week to talk to him about their season so far and how he'd coach a younger Neil MacFarlane. Neil, thanks for your time, mate.
No problem.
Look, it's obviously been a very strange year, and hopefully with Boris's roadmap on Monday means there's light at the end of the tunnel. A lot's documented about the first team and the impact that the situation's had on them. But what about the B team? What effects has it had on you guys?
Yeah, I think it's been challenging for our young players. They've had to deal with a lot of different things, both on and off the pitch. But the support mechanisms at this football club has helped them through that period.
There's that stuff around it, but you've also had to change up your traditional fixtures, because a big part of the B team squad is going away to these places and playing teams like Bayern Munich or Inter Milan and even in Portugal.
Yeah, listen, that was something that I had in my first year at the football club, with the tours, and they're fantastic because they throw up different elements of games against really good opposition, with all different tactical elements thrown from that European opposition. Whereas this year, like you said, with the way that COVID has struck us, we've had to be British based, but we've been very fortunate in the fact that we've been able to get a lot of men's games again against National League teams. And sadly, in one of the respects with the demise of Macclesfield, we've been able to tap in to, say for instance, the teams that obviously they were meant to play, and that's gave us a really broad base of National League games. Then we've played your Arsenals and your Chelseas that we always play the elite of the 23s, and then many first team games as well.
You ruled off some names there. You've had some amazing wins, but you've also done this on the backdrop. You've had a lot of injuries, like the first team have, haven't you? Like to some big names, like people like Paris and Gustav as well.
Yeah, Mads Bistroup, Paris, Gustav, and other ones through the course of what is a different season. From our perspective, it's not been, for instance, your stereotypical hamstrings or thigh injuries or that. It's been innocuous situations, where knocks to their foot or situations like that. But we've actually missed many good players throughout the course of the time. But what I would say is that whoever has stepped onto the park for the B team has gave it everything for this football club, and thrown up some brilliant performances throughout the course of the season.
That's it. Like we mentioned the results, beating teams like Leicester, the winning streak before Christmas as well. Are you judged then on results or the development?
Definitely development. Every morning I wake up, it's to make the players better, make them better on the pitch and make them better people. That's the way I push myself. And I think that on a daily basis, Sam, myself, Yanni and all the staff, they have that in their minds to develop young footballers and to prepare them as best as you can for first team football. And that is with our fixture programme, and that is with the intense training that we do each and every day. But the word that you mentioned there is so prevalent as well. You have to win as well. That's part of your learning. It's important for young players to experience winning football matches. And like when we went on that 6-7 game unbeaten run, winning games week after week, that's good for the young players. The same way as defeats, you've got to learn from them and get over them quickly and get back on the winning trail. So that's all part of the development. But it's important, you've only got to look at the first team, how exceptional it is this season that they went 21 games unbeaten in the Championship. That's an incredible feat. So we've got to breed that in our young players. But the development part of it, the technical side of it, the tactical side of it, that's imperative every single day. And we will never stop pushing the players, because I think it's also important that we never forget the basics of what it takes to be a young footballer. We really concentrate hard on our fitness levels and pushing the players relentlessly, because if you ask them to carry out the tactical detail, they need to be able to do it. So now that when they're fit, they feel as if they can carry that out, and we've seen massive strides within that over the period of time.
And it was interesting you mentioned about the losing and the winning aspects. That's the mental side. I saw a quote from Alex recently when he said, he's obviously the academy manager, when he said 16, talent can get you to 16, but mentality gets you to 35.
Yeah. Which
is interesting. So you've worked with some amazing young players, not just here, Callum Wilson and James Maddison at Coventry. So what do they have that gets them that longevity?
Yeah, well, they have a good mentality. If you take the development of a young footballer, it's important that they have that, and they have that desire and that burning ambition to improve every single day.
I think I know the answer to this, the way you've been speaking so passionately about it. What gives you more of a buzz? Winning games or developing players?
Both. No, I think it's in you. It's in you. It's in you as a coach. You want to win games of football. But when I took this project on, I knew that the biggest part of it is developing them in every aspect, and that's what I strive to do every single day. And here at Jersey Road, we've got everything at our disposal to make young players better. And it's also important that the young players make themselves better as well, because we will maybe coach them for 2 or 3 hours a day, but what do they do with the rest of their day?
Well, development-wise, it's been an unbelievable season, because you had a lot of your group making appearances for Thomas' side of the first team. And how does that work? Because is it constant dialogue, or will you go to Thomas and say, by the way, player X, he's really impressive lately, he's doing this really well, I think you could use him? Or does Thomas go to you and say, Neil, we could do with these areas, what have you guys got? Are they watching? How does it all work?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think Thomas and Brian and Kevin have created something special at the football club. I've loved every single moment of working here, and there's a really strong bond between the first team and the B team, and a good relationship. In my first season, we had many boys make their debut. This season, we've not just had the debuts, we've had boys that have gone on to play a number of games. And that's because they trust in Thomas to play, because it's not easy to get in our first team. This is a side that went 21 games unbeaten, and over the last 2 seasons have been arguably the best team in the Championship. So it's tough to get into our first team, So it's our job to push them, as I said, within the B team setup, and when they get the opportunities to train, which they've had numerous times through the course of my time here, that they make an impression, that then they're obviously in and around the first team, and then when they get those opportunities, they grab them.
And you yourselves, and Sam have had the opportunity to step into Thomas and Brian and Kevin's shoes for that cup game against Borough. How early did you, because us as fans it seemed to be quite a quick thing that we found out. How early did you find out that you were doing it?
Yeah, it was the day before the game. We obviously took training as I said, the day before the game. And then first and foremost, you don't want MD's health being at risk. So it was disappointing to hear, obviously, the COVID scenario regarding the first team staff. But from our perspective, it was a nice occasion because it was a lot of the young players that we've obviously nurtured over the period of time, been given the opportunity. And obviously going on to win. So again, like what you've mentioned earlier on, the development of them was good, and obviously the winning of the game was good. And from our perspective, we loved it. It was good, and I think that the transition and the belief that people have at this football club and each other allowed us to do that smoothly.
And I was watching you and Sam a lot on the sideline that day. It looked exactly the same as the first thing. Is that kind of to do with the process and that we're all under the same umbrella? The one thing I did notice was you're a lot louder and a lot more animated maybe than Thomas with the press. But it's still the same values, isn't it, that the first team have? And does that make it easier for you? Yeah,
listen, the style, the principle, the fundamentals of the team, they're worked on every single day. You know, we work to the same principles, whatever the formation may be. And yeah, it might be more vocal, but that's the type of coach that I am. You know, you are who you are. Thomas is who he is, and listen, he has done an unbelievable job at this football club. You know, I go back to it, it's unprecedented to go on such a top run, and also he's had to deal with many different circumstances through the course of the season with COVID, players who have left the football club, players who are injured. So yeah, every coach is different, but as I said, at this football club we're all working together for one reason, to make every player better and hopefully the bigger picture, the first team getting success.
Mate, I'm going to leave you on one last question. How would you coach the 18-year-old Neil MacFarlane?
100% I would want to be coached with demands and standards, the same way that I try every single day to put into our young players. You know, I want to be pushed. I think good players want to be pushed. You know, players that don't want to be pushed usually fade away. It's the players that want to push themselves, and then, as I said to you earlier on, push themselves thereafter a training session. That's how I would want to be, and then round it with the tactical, the technical aspect, and all the things that we need to nurture them to make sure they're game ready for first team football. But I would definitely want to be pushed, and that's something that I'll never stop pushing young players, because, as I said, this is a brilliant football club. I love this football club, and I'll never ever stop every single morning getting up to really drive these young players.
Amazing. Thanks for your time, mate.
No problem.
Mate, that ending was class.
Lads, I'd have loved to be coached by Neil. I could listen to him all day. I love listening to coaches and managers in general. He speaks with so much enthusiasm, and he clearly absolutely loves his job. As players, do you feed off that when you've got a coach or manager who clearly loves what they're doing?
Yeah, that transmits to you as well, and that's very important. I think I had Colin Lee while I was in the youth team at Brentford, and he was very pivotal in terms of setting the tone for the later years, about the mentality, the attitude, the drive that you need if you're a little bit down. So you cannot underestimate the role of a B team or a development team coach.
He says about pushing and the mentality of players, and he's worked with some amazing players, Callum Wilson, James Maddison, and so many great players here as well. Again, on that mentality thing and the Alex Inglethorpe quote about you can get to a certain age at 16 through talent, and then 35 is through mentality. Have there also been players that you've come across that maybe weren't the most talented, but got there because of their mentality?
Yeah, for sure. Would have come across a few of those players. I'd probably throw myself in that bracket a little bit as well. But I think that's one thing that gets missed in the game, that the mindset and mentality part of the game is so key. You know, there's a lot of things that happen within the game, setbacks, disappointments, all those things, and you have to find a way to keep going to get there. And you've got to remember that the game is based on other people's opinion of you. And not everyone's opinion is going to be kind of what you want or what you desire, but if you work hard enough and you keep moving forward and you stay focused on, you know, the outcome that you want, you'll get there in the end. But it's a tough journey, but it's one that's worthwhile.
It's interesting that you said that about the opinions and stuff, because I actually spoke to Neil off camera about this, and an example we pulled was Mark Albrighton at Leicester. Kasper Schmeichel mentioned him, and every manager bins him at the start. They all biff him, and then they all bring him back in. And it's clear that he's clearly got something. He's won a Premier League now, and it's interesting that you said that, because it seems that every manager goes in and casts him off, but then they bring him straight back. Do you think you both pushed yourselves as young players?
I think we had to push ourselves. You know, we're two different generations, myself and Karleigh. So I'll look at my one as it was tough. It was tough for Karleigh as well. Let's make no mistake over that. But we had to have that sort of bounce back ability after rejections of, oh, you're not in the team, or you're not good enough, and all this sort of stuff. I ended up playing 700 matches, but I've had to, you know, bounce back just like Karleigh from rejections of not being in the team, being left out of squads. That takes some sort of mineral to come back into a career.
You said that he'd like to be pushed. The younger Neil would like to be pushed. How would you like to coach the younger Karleigh?
I think pretty similar, actually. You know, if I look at things like now and where I am mentally now, I would want to be pushed. I'd want to be challenged daily. I'd want to be asked questions of myself, you know, and have to try and find those answers. But you know, that also takes a player who can handle those type of things as well.
Well, I was definitely pushed in mine. If there was one thing I would have loved to have had, was more sort of support mentally and sort of socially, in that sort of sense. Back then there was no support for players. If he was going through anything, you had to do it alone. Well, I had to do it alone.
You know, that's a good point that kind of GAYLE makes there, because as a young lad coming through, although I was pushed regularly, I was lucky enough to have those older pros who had been through those experiences and was able to guide and support us through that. And that made a big difference, because although they challenged you and pushed you every time we trained with them, they also gave you the other side of when you needed to talk, or if you needed a bit of advice, they were there to do that. So I was quite lucky coming through with my youth team.
Brilliant. Look, honestly, lads, I would have liked to have had a bit more chat about the B team, but that was brilliant, because fair play. While we're here, Neil and Sam have done an incredible job with them in the last couple of years. But listening to you guys talk about it kind of leads into what we're about to go to next on our next feature, and a little mini series potentially with yourselves called Players' Perspective. Tell us about the one that you've done this week with Tariqe Fosu.
Well, the player's perspective for this week was with Tariqe Fosu Henry, just talking about diversity and inclusion, and just getting, you know, from a player's perspective. I think we hear quite a lot of what the fans or the public's opinion is on certain topics, but I think it's also vital that we hear the perspective of players. What really do players think about, and what do they want to see changing?
Now, the boys got up with Tariqe as he took part in a Brentford Community Sports Trust webinar on diversity and inclusion. These webinars have been running weekly, and over 500 participants have engaged with speakers such as first team strength and conditioning coach Tom Perryman, referee Akil Howson, and our very own Christian Norgard. So here's a tease of the first episode of The Player's Perspective.
You guys have inspired me, man. Inspired me still.
There's been a lot of things in the press and in the media just surrounding, you know, what goes on with players that get abused, and discrimination and inclusion and stuff. We're all players, and between us, can you believe it? There's 5 decades of Brentford football between us. That's where I want to sort of head this discussion and just have a talk.
The spotlight's on players. The actual kind of meaning of taking a knee has been lost to a degree. And I think that's because of how it's been portrayed in the media and things like that. And players are in a real difficult kind of situation, because the answer to what we want to try and get to isn't just a simple, well, this is what we do and that's how it's going to get fixed. It's a matter of people coming together from all backgrounds, all cultures, all creeds coming together and having open and honest discussions in how we make, you know, football a better place, how we make the world a better place in the understanding of everybody. But the problem that is created with this is an emotional subject. So, you know, when we speak about this, to hold your emotions within it, because people will have different views, is extremely hard to do. But until we get to a place where we can kind of, you know, sit down and hold these conversations with people at the very top of the game, decision makers at the very top of the game, and most of all the players, because the players go through this. The players are the ones that, you know, receive the abuse. They're the ones that have to deal with these things daily.
People are scared to, do you know what I mean, say their opinions and things like that, just in case they get it wrong or something like that, do you know what I mean? But everyone has to be open about it, do you know what I mean? And they have to say, do you know what I mean? And obviously if they get something wrong and stuff like that, we can, people can guide them, do you know what I mean? And give them some knowledge on, to have a better understanding. I know how it is sometimes being a black man, you know, and I feel like some people don't, I don't know, when we're going through things, they're kind of, it's sensitive, do you know what I mean? Like they don't want to say the wrong things and stuff like that, so the approach is just a bit wrong, do you know what I mean? If you're just open about it, you can have a conversation and I can learn things from them, you can, do you know what I mean? Other people and stuff like that, but it's just being honest, having an honest conversation, I think.
I remember the first time I got racially abused playing football. I was 12, I'm 50, but I still remember it as if it was yesterday. That's the sort of impact it has.
Every time I touched the ball, I realised that there was like monkey chants going on. You know, at first I didn't really see, because, you know, you're wrapped up in the game, you don't really hear the crowd. But then I started to hear the crowd, and I took a throw on, and I faced some racist abuse there. And I remember looking at the person like dead in the eye, and I didn't know what to do. I just turned around, took the throw in, and carried on the game. But in that moment, did it affect me? Yeah, it did. It did affect me. I think now where the game's moving on, people aren't afraid to talk out. People aren't afraid to highlight it now. And I think there was a bit of that where, you know, you almost was a little bit afraid. I was afraid at that time to highlight it, because I didn't want to get seen as, you know, I'm making a fuss out of something.
This sticks with us for the rest of our lives. And we even had a player a couple of weeks ago that said, he's only young, said, this will stick with me for the rest of my life, being abused. And I don't think people really appreciate the impact.
As footballers, we don't really like open up as much, do you know what I mean? Obviously, sometimes recently we've been speaking a lot more about it, but usually it's just like, oh, it's normal, do you know what I mean? Like we just take it on the chin, it's just normal, but you need to speak up and do something about it, do you know what I mean?
I think the biggest thing for players is being able to see people in positions that you might like to be in. When you don't see that visual representation, you almost start to limit your own kind of thoughts on what you can be after football. I only worked under one black manager and coach throughout my whole career, and I knew I wanted to go into coaching, but, you know, if I'd seen more sort of, you know, black people within the board or at higher levels, it just gives you a better view of where you can go after football and what is available to you after football.
Sometimes I say to myself, yeah, I want to do coaching, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, I might not even want to be in football. I might do something else, do you know what I mean? But that's only because I don't see like any successful managers, black managers or anything like that. So it's like there's no one to look up to.
For some reason, the game feels that black managers don't have, or black coaches or black board members, whatever it might be, don't have the capabilities to do those kind of roles. You think of the game now and how many black players are playing at the top level, representing their countries, playing in the Premier League. There's no way that you can be that good as a footballer, you know, that clever as a footballer in terms of the information you've been taking on and what you've done over a long period of time, and then all of a sudden get to the end of your career and you're not good enough to maybe manage a team or be amongst board members and deliver, you know, sensible things that are going to help clubs grow and move forward.
We've got a very good club with positive messages about that sort of community, that be together spirit. We're working harder. each day to be one of the most inclusive clubs in the land. You know, you look at our roles, Karleigh. You're Brentford women's boss, gaffer, as Stu would say. I'm the club's first ever club ambassador. So I'm a black player, ex-black player that started his career at this club at League One and went all the way to the Premier League and the World Cup as well. I've come back because I love the club. I love what it stands for. I believe in the quality and the people around it. And I'm privileged to have this role. Like yourself, Karleigh, privileged to have that role because it shows that you have a sense of value and a worth to the club. Hopefully we can inspire more players like Tariqe one day. I'd love to see him in the coaching.
I didn't even know, Karleigh, I didn't even know you was the gaffer.
Yeah. I do the women's team. Yeah, so
I'm proud, man. Marcus as well. I didn't even know you was in the ambassador. You guys have inspired me, man. Inspired me still.
Like I say, that was just a tease, and we'll be putting up the full version in parts on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. Lads, I'm not just saying it because you're my mates. Genuinely, that was absolutely brilliant. I learned so much. So, and thanks, fair play. And little mini-series, maybe. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It most certainly would. But I think we're good presenters, GAYLE, aren't we?
Oh, mate.
We've got a little double act.
I'm worried. Probably too good. I think I'm gone. That's my worry, lads. Don't forget about me. Come on, we're a trio, aren't we? That's it. We stick together.
Yeah, we'll bring you on as the guest on our show. Don't worry, it's okay.
Right, let's get to the games. Stoke tomorrow at home. What effect will the Sheffield Wednesday win have in this game, Marcus?
It will give us a massive boost. We know there's a tough task at hand anyway, the next two games. But, you know, the result the other night is going to help us immensely. Gives players a chance to get fit, get nearer that matchday squad. We saw Emiliano and Ivan Toney on the bench. So it's going to only just strengthen us going into this game.
Karleigh, we know that Stoke love a cross. I've learnt from you guys. Body position, and we've got to just stop the cross early, right?
Yeah, stop the cross as early as you can. But body position, organisation within the 18-yard box is going to be key. You know what Stoke are going to bring. They would have seen all of the clips on video and analysis and things like that. So it's just making sure that you're prepared for those situations, and they will be.
Fletcher looks like he's an injury doubt. I don't know if he's got a fitness test. What is a fitness test? What is that? What like? Is it
depends what club you're at.
Like, is it actually a thing? Like, do you just run a bit and then they tell you, oh yeah, you can play, or like, do you have to do an actual like proper series of testing events on your?
Well, I've done a few fitness tests in my time, unfortunately, but at some clubs I've been really tested to make sure that I'm match ready. At other clubs, I've been kind of run a length of the pitch and been like, how you feeling? Are you all right? So it very much depends at what club you're at, yeah.
Well, hopefully that they do a lot of tests for him because we know he is a danger man. He's been a bit of an Achilles heel for us, but also we know how good he is in the air. Is that again where our new mate Winston's going to come in very handy in his experience and his intelligence, Marcus?
Well, if that is the battle, then that'll be it. Winston Reid up against Fletcher. And I'm sure there's only going to be one winner in that. With the way he's playing, the way he's got that sort of energy burst at playing with Brentford now, he's enjoying this time. He knows he's made a big impact in a very short space of time, but his experience will count for a lot on the day. It's going to hold us, strong and secure at the back. And the players, they follow that sort of lead as well.
Yeah, and obviously if it isn't Fletcher, it could be Vokes. Tyrese Campbell, we know, is out. Who's their danger man, in my opinion. That's a boost. But they've got class all over the pitch. They can't be underestimated. This game comes with Norwich on the horizon. And look, I know we say one game at a time, and I've bought into that now. I have bought into that. But surely it's hard not to get distracted by that game coming up, Karleigh. Or is it that's me being the idiot fan. We just focus on Stoke now.
No, I think, in terms of the players and the staff, they'll be focused on doing the job at Stoke and then move on to Norwich. It's key at this moment in time that they've had a great result against Sheffield Wednesday, but they need to follow that up again, with Stoke. So that'll be their main focus. And then from there, you can look towards Norwich with hopefully some more confidence, more points on the board, and really go and attack that game as well.
It comes in the same week. So, Marcus, I'm going to talk about it as well. I'm not going to go big on it because we got the first game first. But it's going to be an exciting match against Norwich, isn't it?
Yeah, technically it was a very good game at Lionel Road earlier in the season. And I expect exactly the same again. They've come into some really strong form. Players like Cantwell are back in the side and doing bits in there. So we're up against it. But you know what? Norwich are going to be up against it as well. They know exactly what quality we have. They know we've had injury problems and we've got players on their way back into that matchday lineup.
That's it for today, lads. Boys, pleasure as always. Now we know soon I can get the trip to the barbers, eh?
Yeah, it's much needed.
Is that another 4 months in it still?
I know, I'm thinking that if I carry on, I'm going to have to go down the route of the Tariqe, Ivan and Emiliano haircut. They've all got that top knot at the moment, haven't they?
I thought it was
Are you getting there?
Just do this. Look, clean it off.
Nah, I can't do that.
Time it will be back to normal.
I've got a weird shaped head, mate. I can't. Pleasure as always. And soon, hopefully, we'll be reunited in person if things go all to plan. Like we said, Norwich and Stoke this week. Match passes available as always at brentfordfc.com/ifollow. Programmes for Stoke available at the Curtis Sport website. Chris Deacon smashing that again. And remember, the second episode of The Sting is out now. Check it out. Superb work, Lukey. Still 14 games to go and plenty of football to play. Loads of twists and turns. It's going to be exciting. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. You Reds!